Namaste. In this episode, we will discuss the spread of Indian literature in Southeast Asia. Indian literatures like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Panchatantra, Jataka stories, among others, were very popular among the people of Southeast Asia. Modifications were also made in them according to their cultures and traditions. Let me take you through a journey of the spread of Ramayana, Mahabharata, Panchatantra and Jatak stories in Southeast Asia. Dating back to the 1st century, Indian culture started making its way into the region of Southeast Asia. Ramayana is one of the greatest literary works of India. There are several versions of Ramayana in Southeast Asia which differ from each other according to their cultures. Remkar, the Ramayana version of Cambodia. Ramayana came to Cambodia in 7th century as a part of poem. It is titled as Remkar, which means glory of Ram. Some scenes of Ramayana can also be seen on temple walls of Cambodia like Angkor Wat. There are several differences seen in Remkar that are not there in the original Sanskrit text. Some of these differences are: a great deal of emphasis is given to Hanuman through additional scenes. For example, one of the most famous scenes of Remkar is the encounter of Hanuman with a mermaid. As Cambodia's population was predominantly following Theravada Buddhism, there is a big Buddhist influence on Remkar. In the Indian version, Ram is considered as an avatar of Vishnu, whereas in the Cambodian version, Ram is seen as a mere mortal and nothing special. One of the major changes comes with the scene when Sita passes the test of trial by fire. She is highly offended by Ram for not trusting her and decides to leave him and finds refuge at Valmiki's place. Kakawin Ramayana, the Ramayana version of Indonesia. Kakawin Ramayana is also known as Ramayana Java. Although a Muslim country, Ramayana is very popular there. Yogyakarta, a city in Indonesia, is said to be a transliteration of Ayodhya. Enactment of Ramayana in Indonesia is done through a puppet show called Wayang Kulit, which can last up to multiple nights. Many characters of Ramayana can be seen on 9th century Prambanan temple of Yogyakarta. There are some differences that we can see in the Kakawin Ramayana, like although the first half is same, the second half is so difficult from the Indian version that the scholars can't even recognize it. There is an introduction of few new characters like the character of Dhyan, the guardian god of Java, and his misshapen sons, which make up the 4 clown servants. The Indonesian version is based on Ravan Vad, which was a 6th century retelling of Ramayana focusing more on Ravan. There is a full performance of Kakawin Ramayana ballet that happens in temples during festivals in Indonesia. Fralak Fraram, the Ramayana version of Laos. Ramayana reached Laos much later than other places like Cambodia and Thailand, which resulted in a loss of its original Hindu influence and is affected by the previous adaptations in Southeast Asia. It was brought around 17th century by Buddhist missionaries and is actually considered as a Jatak story highlighting previous lives of Buddha. Like other versions, there are differences in this version too. Like adapting to its Buddhist influence, Ram is seen as an incarnation of Gautam Buddha and is regarded as true follower of his dharma, whereas Ravan is considered the previous incarnation of Mara, the demon that tried to impede the Buddha's ascent to enlightenment. This version focuses more on the heroism of Lakshman, hence names as Pralak, Praram. Also, instead of being set close to the Ganges, the story takes place along the Mekong River, the mother of waters and perhaps the most important river for many inhabitants in mainland Southeast Asia. Hikayat Seri Ram, the Ramayana version of Malaysia. The Malaysian version of Ramayana is known as Hikayat Seri Ram, which means Chronicles of Great Ram. The Ramayana came to the lands now known as Malaysia, most likely through Tamil traders. Even after Islam was introduced to the region, the epic's ideals of righteousness, loyalty, and selfless devotion ensured its popularity. Between the 13th and 17th centuries, the epic was written as a hikayat, an Arabic word that literally translates to stories and is regarded to be a form of Malay literature. It is performed in Southeast Asia through shadow puppetry, which makes it very unique. Differences that we can see in this version are minor characters are upgraded to become major characters. Lakshman is seen as courageous and focused while Ram is shown as weak and arrogant. Another version focuses on Maharaja Van or Ravan, who is depicted in this version as being more just and loyal than Seri Ram, who is perceived as being arrogant and vain. Yama Jadhav, the Ramayana version of Burmese. The Burmese version of Ramayana and Ramayana was influenced by Thailand due to invasion of Burma by Siamese kings in 15th century. Yam Jadhav is also considered a Jatak story of Theravada Buddhism, where Ram is known as Yam and Sita is known as Thida. It was said to have been introduced during King Anavartha's reign in the 11th century. However, the version currently popular in the country also has Thai influences that can be traced back to the Ayutthaya. Maharadhya Lavan, the Ramayana version of Philippines. It is said that the epic came to Philippines in the mid 17th and early 19th century by Malaysian and Javanese traders. Maharadhya Lavan was written by Maranao people to Indianize the epic with some differences suiting their culture. The version that came had already been changed to Malaysian and Javanese versions, hence they trying to Indianize it didn't get back to its Sanskrit version, but it was close to it. Major difference that can be seen in this version is its emphasis on to Ravan. Some scholars also say that Maharadhya Lavan translated to Ravan. Ramayana in Philippines is enacted through their local dance Singkil. Ramakien, the Ramayana version of Thailand. Arriving as early as 13th century, it is the national epic of Thailand. Ramakien is influenced by three sources: Valmiki's Ramayana, Vishnu Puran and Hanuman Natak. Many versions of this epic were destroyed with the destruction of Ayutthaya province of Thailand in 1767. However, three versions exist currently, one written by King Ram in 1797, another written by his son Ram II for Khon drama, the dramatic art form of Thailand. There are some pictures of its painted version, which is in Bangkok's temple of Emerald Buddha, known as Wat Phra Keo, the most sacred Buddhist temple. There are some major differences that are seen in this version, like Hanuman is shown as an important character more than Ram and is described as a man that seduces and attracts women. He is also shown to have relationship with Vibhushan's daughter and wife and daughter of Ravan. Sita is seen as the birth daughter of Ravan. Story goes that an astrologer predicted that she will bring doomsday to Lanka, so fearing that people will kill her, Ravan abandoned her in forest where she is adopted by Janak. He keeps a close watch on her and brings her back to her house at the time of banishment. Mahabharata came to Southeast Asia during 7th to 14th century. It was used as a medium to convey Indian ideas and Hindu religion. It is expressed through Vyankulic performances. There are many statues and sculptures portraying Mahabharata in temples like Angkor Wat. There is a full scene of Samudra Manthan at Swarnabhumi Airport in the capital city of Thailand, Bangkok. This itself shows a great impact of Mahabharata in Southeast Asia. Mahabharata can also be seen in Malay manuscripts. Malay version of Mahabharata came with the performance of old Javanese prose Bharatayuddha. There are three versions of Mahabharata of Malay origin. First and the earliest, Hikayat Perang Pandava Jaya. The tale of the war of the victorious Pandava was composed sometimes between the late 14th and early 16th century. This is the opening page of Hikayat Perang Pandava Jaya with double decorated frames in red, pink and black ink. The second part of the work, entitled Hikayat Pandava Jaya, the tale of the victorious Pandavas, tells the story of the Pandavas' victory in the Great War, and this part is also contained in another manuscript in the British Library. These are the opening lines of Hikayat Pandava Jaya. A third Malay manuscript in the British Library related to the Mahabharata is Hikayat Maharaj Bom, a variant of the story better known as Hikayat Sang Bom or Hikayat Sang Samba. This is the story of 5 Pandav brothers and their families, but the main heroes are Krishna, the earthly incarnation of God Vishnu, which in Sanskrit is known as Vishnu, and his father Basudeva, which in Sanskrit is known as Vasudeva, brother Baladeva, and son Samba Pravirjaya. Hikayat Sangbom was probably composed in the 15th centuries in one of the traditional centers of Javanese Malay cultural contract. The Hindu philosophical ideas which permeate the Sanskrit epics are barely evident in the Malay version. The copy of Hikayat Pandavajaya ends with a brief unfinished syar, of which the first stanzas read, "This is the story of the victorious Pandavas. Whoever reads it, don't believe a word of it. It's full of hopeless lies, of glorious imaginary worlds." Duad, the scribe of the manuscript of Hikayat Maharaj Bom, has added the stern abomination, "Don't believe this," to every folio. It was also believed that if one would believe the story, then they would be a sinful person. These are the closing lines of Hikayat Pandavajaya telling readers not to believe in it. Mahabharata, the Javanese version. Bharat Yudh is a term used in Indonesia for the Kurukshetra war and to describe the Javanese translation and interpretation of the Mahabharata. According to the Javanese tradition, the war between descendants of Emperor Bharat was already destined by the gods long before the Pandavas and Kauravas were born. The tradition also maintained that the Kurukshetra battlefield is not located in the present-day Haryana state of India, but rather in Jain Plateau, Central Java. Therefore, the Javanese considered the Mahabharata epic happened in Java and not in India. The Mahabharata was translated into Old Javanese under the reign of King Dharmavangsa of Medang. The current poem was started by Siddha in 1157 and finished by Pu Panulu. There are many differences in the Indonesian Mahabharata and the Old Vedvyas written Mahabharata, like Bhishma visit to the kingdom of Kashi. King Shantanu and Satyavati sends Bhishma to join the Swayamvar in Kashi to win the 3 princesses Amba, Ambika and Ambalika for his 2 younger brothers Chitrangda and Vichitravirya. In the Indian version, Shantanu and Chitrangda are already dead. Next difference is Draupadi Swayamvar. Here, there is no archery competition. The winner of the contest is to be the one who can defeat Pati Ganmansa, uncle of Draupadi, a character introduced in the Indonesian version, in a duel battle. Meanwhile, Kunti and Pandavas decide to join the contest with a purpose to get a wife for Yudhishthir. As Bhim is already a married man, he represents Yudhishthir and defeats Gandaman and wins her for his elder brother. Gandaman knows of his imminent death and gives his strength to Bhim before his death, that it is Bhim and not Arjun who wins Draupadi. Another difference is Karan Arjun's meeting. The most touching and tearful moment in the Indonesian version is the Karan Arjun meeting on the eve of Karna's first day as the commander-in-chief of Kaurava's army. Arjun secretly visits him. He has the most difficult moment in his life. Arjun suddenly stands in front of him, kneels and greets him respectfully and says clearly, "Please accept my sincere respect and Pandava's respect to you." Karna is deeply moved. His eyes are filled with tears. Arjun proposes to make him the emperor of Hastinapur and hopes that he will join them. They speak emotionally with each other and express love for each other. Finally, they decide to adhere to the Kshatriya duties and fight in next day's battle. Then, they embrace each other again without a word and Arjun leaves with Karna's permission. Mahabharata in Thailand. Mahabharata came to Thailand with Brahmins via sea route and settled since 1st century. There are many findings in the form of inscriptions indicating the spread in Thailand. Incomplete inscriptions from Sangmyeong district say that Pandavas are referred to as the ideal instruction of warriors. In a Lavapur inscription of 10th century, there is an image of Vasudeva that is worshipped every day. Then, there is a Khmer inscription which tells the story of King Suryavarman Dev, who changed the name of the town Vibhed to Kurulketra after Kurukshetra. The word Sechum inscription of Sukhothai kingdom says that Sri Sharadaraj, a monk who was a prince to be Krishna and also Ram in his previous lives. The Phu Konchit Kunkot contains names of 3 heroes from Pandavas, that is Yudhishthir, Bhim and Arjun. Several poems and songs also give evidence of spread of Mahabharata in Thailand, like poems on the inscriptions of Krishna composed by Prince Vasuk and dramatic songs of Savitri composed by King Vajirvudh. Panchatantra was exported to Southeast Asia in oral and literary forms by Buddhist monks on pilgrimage. Panchatantra is one of the most widely traveled books in the world next to Bible. It has 200 versions in more than 50 languages. The Malaya version, Hikayat Kalila Dan Daminaha, was brought by Tamil traders during Chola era. Malaya version of Panchatantra, Hikayat Kalila Dan Daminaha, Panchatantra has been translated in Laos, Cambodia and Thailand by Buddhist monks and show a strong similarity to Buddhist Jataka stories. Panchatantra reliefs have been found in architectures of Indonesia, like the relief of Mendut temple, and crane and crab fable in the same temple can also be seen. Javanese Panchatantra reliefs known as Tantri are seen in Buddhist religious monuments. Tantra reliefs come from old Sanskrit version of Panchatantra known as the Tantri Kamandak. Some reliefs of Panchatantra have also been found at Sojiwan temple and Borobudur temple in Indonesia. The monkey and crocodile story is seen in Mendut and Sojiwan temple, and the tortoise and geese story in Mendut temple. There are also Laos and Thai version of Panchatantra. Laos's version is called Nandak Prakaran and the Thai version is called Nang Tantrai. Jatak stories. Jatak stories tell us about the previous births of Gautam Buddha and are very popular in Southeast Asia. Panas Jatak and Vesantra Jatak are the most popular amongst all versions. Panas Jatak. Panas Jatak is extra-canonical birth tales of the Buddha. Their origin is usually associated with northern Thailand or the former kingdom of Lana. They are written by Buddhist monastics, mostly in local Thai dialect, to make them available to larger public. They were also compiled in Pali language. Motifs that appear in some Panas Jatak can also be found on 9th century reliefs at the Borobudur monument in Java, which suggests that some Panas Jatak may be derived from older pre-Buddhist Southeast Asian folklore. Various Panas Jatak have parallels with Sanskrit literature as well as Tamil, Chinese, Tibetan, Khotanese and Southeast Asian folk tales. Scenes from Mendut temple in Java. A royal edition of a selection of Panas Jatak was commissioned by King Mongkut. The text was written mainly in Khmer script, which was commonly used for Pali Buddhist scriptures in central Thailand up until the end of the 19th century. The manuscript consists of 10 bundles with altogether 235 palm leaves held between two wooden covers which were decorated with black lacquer and gilt floral patterns. This is wood cover on the royal manuscript having tales of Panas Jatak. Panas Jatak in Khmer script. The stories of Panas Jatak mainly outline Buddha's biography and illustrate his acquisition of perfection with generosity. There are 3 versions of this, namely the Burmese version called Zinme Pianyanta, the Cambodian version and the Thai version. Vesantra Jatak. The Laos version of Jatak stories is known as Vesantra Jatak. It is a popular Jatak of Theravada Buddhism. Origins are traced in Pali language but were later translated to prose and poetic styles. It is a story of Prince Vesantra who gives away everything he owns, including his children, displaying generosity. It is also known as Great Birth Sermon. The ceremony of Vesantra Desan, Tale of Prince Vesantra, is a big event annually organized and which is included in Hidsip song, the traditional ceremony organized in each month of the year. Originated in the time of King Phanom in 14th century BC. It is different from other ceremonies because it takes a whole day to finish. Therefore, people in the whole village have to work together in harmony to prepare for the event. For instance, cleaning the temple ground, arranging the ceremonial venue. Villagers are appointed to serve monks and novices who are invited from other different temples to preach in the ceremony. In this event, everyone is responsible for it, ranging from the abbot, the chief of the village, to general villagers. This creates the harmony in a village community. Vesantra Desan is not a mere festivity, but it plays a significant role on educating people. It is an opportunity for them to learn the Dhamma and bring it into practice in their daily life. Vesantra Jatak contains 9 literary tones and tastes, which is considered the most complete factors of literature. These are Rati, the taste of love, satisfaction; Hans, the taste of happiness, entertaining; Sok, the taste of sorrow; Kodh, taste of revenge; Utsaha, taste of perseverance; Bhay, taste of suffering or fear; Jigucha, taste of disgusting, boredom; Vimuhaya, taste of amazement, astonishing; Sama, taste of tranquility. This is how we see the spread of Jatak and Panchatantra stories in Southeast Asia. If you want to know anything about Indian history, please leave it in the comment box so that I can come back with it. If you have liked the episode, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.